before we get to headlines today, breaking news this Tuesday morning is Jorge Vilda has been fired by the Spanish Football Federation. Sarah, just very quickly, is the end of this sordid saga? I suspect it's not.
No, it's not, because there is still one Luis Rubiales who is still the head of the Spanish Federation of Football. I think this is a step in the right direction. I think this is something that the RFEF needed to do for a long time, since there have been issues with Jorge Vilda for over a year now regarding him and his players' relationships. But it's a bit shocking to me that we're seeing, the sacking of Vilda where Rubiales is, still the head of football.
Albeit suspended for 3 months by
the
Confederation. But
he should be completely removed from the situation.
Absolutely. I love the statement, though. They say, listen, thanks so much for the great job. You left us as world champions.
Going out as a world champion.
Second in the FIFA World Rankings. But you're still fired.
It's just like, why would you? I just think that's adding fuel to the fire for their Twitter campaign, really. Like, why would you even say that? Just say thanks. See ya.
I wonder where he goes now, where he ends up. He'll get a job in football somewhere.
He'll get a job in La Liga for sure. He'll get a job in Spain.
Well, listen, Mason Greenwood signs with Getafe.
You pulled the words right out of my mouth.
Anything is possible in football. We know
Anything
that.
is.
Yeah.
Anything is possible.
Sarah, including firing your manager after 4 games of a brand new season. That's your first headline.
I'm so upset with this. Villarreal have sacked Quique Setién after 4 matches, 1 win, 3 losses. I mean, Villarreal is one of the best teams in Spain. They have great players. Sure, not getting off to a good start, but we've seen several teams do this across all leagues in Europe. I think it's way too early. Quique Setién, obviously being a former Barcelona coach, a former Betis coach, he is a very well-respected coach in Spain. I think he's a very talented manager. And you're sacking him after 4 matches. Seems a little rash.
Now he was almost fired last season, right? Mm-hmm. When he took over, but they turned it around. They played really, really well. But it does seem rash. But in Spain and Italy, this happens. In England, less so. Birdie. Now your headline centers around another team struggling after 4 games, and a manager very much on the hot seat. Is it fair to say, regarding one of his supposed star players who haven't been star players since?
Yes. So you're talking about Eric Ten Hag, Manchester United, and Jadon Sancho. I don't think Ten Hag is on the hot seat. Maybe. I mean, if these results keep happening, listen, they haven't been great. I mean, they barely got past Wolves, lost to Spurs, and you know what? They actually showed pretty well. I think a pretty good showing against Arsenal. They just couldn't get it done.
You think so?
Yeah, I thought they were pretty good. Like, they went there with an actual plan. It just didn't work out. I mean, the Garnacho goal, that would have possibly ended the game for Manchester United. 3-1. Yes. But if you watch that game, I don't think the scoreline actually reflects what we saw from there. But yeah, so he called out Jadon Sancho after that game. He was asked, hey, why wasn't Sancho on the bench? He's like, he wasn't selected essentially because he hasn't been training well. Called him out. Then Sancho comes out and says, don't believe what you read. And there you go. Now, Sancho calls out the manager calls out Sancho. And there's a lot to kind of dissect here. A lot of people are going after, Sancho for coming out, but not saying the same thing to Ten Hag for calling out his player. Mm-hmm. Which one is it? It can't be a double standard here.
Well, one of the two things has happened here, right? Either he was in the wrong, and he's renowned for being a poor trainer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or Ten Hag, for some reason, has gone after him. Which I don't see that happening.
No.
Listen, I will always want to hear players and coaches being honest to the media because it happens so rarely. So we should be celebrating this. But there's something very wrong with Jadon Sancho at Manchester United. This is a guy that was superb at Borussia Dortmund. Has never got it going at United. Is it the manager's fault? Is it the player's fault? It probably lies somewhere in the middle there.
I think so. And I have a whole history here of Sancho's training his issues. Back with Man City, he was dropped from the preseason tour by Pep Guardiola because he wasn't showing up to training and he wasn't doing well in training. Guardiola even said he didn't want to take this challenge here, this opportunity to discover it was here for him. He decided not to do it. Dortmund, he was dropped and fined after returning late from England. He also said this during his time at Dortmund. Sometimes I'm late to training, and it's things like this that I need to work on because I have a sleep problem.
Oh my
goodness.
That's brutal.
And then he turned up late to training for Southgate in 2021. Has never been selected since. Yeah. And if you look at Ten Hag, he has a history of doing this. He dropped Marcus Rashford at the beginning of last season. People forget that because he was 1 minute late to training. Dropped him.
He dropped Ronaldo.
He dropped players at Ajax. Noah Lang in a cup match where Ajax won. He got upset at Noah Lang because he's like, listen, this is a team game, essentially. It's not just about you. A month later, he loaned him out So Ten Hag, he has no tolerance for this thing.
Well, I
So-
think that's good though. Like you have to.
No,
be
I'm not.
on
I'm just stating the facts. Like, this
Yeah.
is how Ten Hag operates. And if you have Guardiola, Dortmund managers, Gareth Southgate saying the same things and the same issues
hard
popping
to
up about
believe.
Sancho, maybe it's on Sancho.
Do you think that this is potentially a cry for help from Sancho and he's maybe looking to get a move out of the club? Because sometimes we see this happening with players when they're looking desperate and maybe trying to get some attention. I'm not saying not showing up to training. I'm saying him coming out and making that statement against Ten Hag.
Well, maybe you should have done it during the transfer window.
Well, Saudi's still open, James.
Well, listen, the thing
There's a
about
bunch of them
Sancho
still
is
open.
a lot of players at United right now, they can't build this team because they're on such high salaries. The players don't want to leave.
Yeah.
Now, Sancho's on big money at that club. So whoever comes in for him has to pay that or more to get him, which is maybe why he hasn't been sold just yet.
Or United take a bulk of his salary. At the same time, I just don't think there's a market for Jadon Sancho.
Yeah.
82 games played, 12 goals, 6 assists. He cost $93 million.
It's one of the biggest busts in Premier League history.
Absolutely.
At this point.
And
Let's
think
say-
about like the relationship between Ten Hag and Sancho. So Sancho was given a leave because of some mental health issues. Ten Hag was the one who sent him to Netherlands to work with his coaches to help him and gave him that time. So
Yeah.
if you think about that and what Ten Hag had to say, he must be completely disappointed and feels like I can't get through to him at training behind closed doors.
Yeah.
I got to go out in public this. With that said, I don't think he should have brought it out at that point. He was upset after the loss.
Yeah,
he
yeah.
did say he felt like United should have won that game.
Yeah, but he said that before the match he would address the Sancho situation after the match.
Oh, see, I didn't see that.
So,
Okay.
so I think this is the last straw. He's tried everything with this guy, and now some public shaming is the only future move here, I think, for the manager, which just shows how he's been pushed. Could you imagine Sir Alex Ferguson putting up with this? No chance.
No manager.
No chance. I think Jadon Sancho's got to look himself in the mirror, have a long, hard stare, and say, okay, do I want to be a professional footballer at the highest level? Because he's got all the skills needed, but clearly he can't show professionalism on the training field for whatever reason. To say that I've got a sleeping issue and that's why I'm sleeping in.
Yeah.
Can you imagine telling our boss that?
Well, maybe. That's okay. But think about the man. That's hilarious. Think about the managers he's had at United: Ole, Carrick, Ranić, and now Ten Hag. And he's never,
Hasn't worked out for him.
he's never found a spot in that starting 11
Yeah.
for a long period of time. Listen,
Crazy.
he's a good player. He tore it up in Dortmund, no question. And when he's on it, he's on. He's really good. He can beat players one-on-one, tons of assists.
Well,
but
he came through
he has
England
an
as
issue
well
here.
around the same time as Jude Bellingham did.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's right. Yeah.
Look at Jude Bellingham now, starring at Real Madrid, starring for England. Not a bad word about the guy, and they're both young guys. One guy's gone one path, the other guy the other path. So hopefully he gets it sorted out. He's young enough to fix this thing, but look himself hard in the mirror. Moving on now to kind of the opposite, a true professional in Jordan Henderson. The Mirror is talking all about his move to Etihad, and actually The Athletic had a great interview with Jordan Henderson. I strongly believe that me playing in Saudi Arabia is a positive thing. Now, this is about the whole LGBTQ plus argument. He's been an advocate for that movement for a long time, then goes to Saudi Arabia. He's called a hypocrite. In this interview, a long interview actually, it's definitely worth reading if you have a chance. He says a few things like, don't get me wrong, when you move, the business deal has to be tight. You have to have financials. You have to feel wanted. You have to feel valued, and money is a part of that. But that wasn't the sole reason, and these possibilities came up before money was even mentioned. He said regarding the LGBTQ plus situation, I think people know what my views and values were before I left and still do now. And I think having someone with those views and values in Saudi Arabia is only a positive thing. It's about the money.
Obviously.
Come on.
It's
Now-
always
now-
about the money.
Yeah.
I just wish he wouldn't have said anything because it's just drawing more attention to him. He already had so much attention because he was so loud with his advocacy for the Rainbow Laces campaign.
Yep.
And I just think it doesn't look good, but don't come out and say it because guess what now? More attention's looked at you. And you know what? I don't believe this. I'm sorry. I don't think that he has anything against LGBTQ rights. I don't think that's the issue here, but you're going to a place where they don't have rights and you're going for the money, and that's fine. But please don't say anything because I'm looking right through you at this point.
Yeah, and he's saying that isn't the sole reason. What is it?
He
what
wants
are
to-
the other reasons?
The sole reason, according to the interview, is he feels excited about building a new league up to become the best in the
break.
world.
Give me a break. We
That's
know
a
that
bunch
this
you know
is
what.
tarnishing football. It has been. People are not happy about this. He felt bad because he had to, like, Liverpool basically let him go, and he didn't think it was his time. For sure, as a footballer, as a captain of a team, it's going to break your heart. Not taking that away from him, but please don't go and try and write this story where you're saying, I'm really excited about the project.
Okay,
Give
but he's
me
not
a
the only guy
break.
to say that, right? They all say it's about the project and building this league up from the ground up. Why is that wrong? Why can't that be true as well? Why can't a new league pop up and become powerful?
Why wouldn't he?
We're so comfortable with the Premier League being what it is, which once upon a time rebuilt itself. We're so comfortable with La Liga being a top league. Why can't we have new
We
new
can,
energy?
but we're talking about Saudi Arabia. I think that's where the line is drawn, where human rights are coming into action. We're not talking about him going to Turkey, Austria, Belgium. We're talking about him going to a nation that has a lot of corrupt issues in general. I think if Jordan Henderson went to Lens, a nice French team that just got into the Champions League, like, there were so many places he could go. And there are so many places all of these footballers can
Although
go.
he did say that people expect all the phones to be ringing off the hook when he was leaving Liverpool. He goes, that wasn't the case.
No, of course not.
And he
Yeah,
said that
because
he
he's a
didn't want
bit
to stay in
washed,
England
though.
because he couldn't face the thought of playing against his teammates, which I find hard to believe because everyone does that.
I'm pretty sure
point.
Liverpool played against Sunderland, so that's a bunch of baloney from what he's saying.
That's a valid
And to
point,
be
yeah.
honest, his salary is 5.2 million. At least that's what it says here on Google. No team in Europe is going to offer that to
Now,
Jordan
he
Henderson.
did say the money that's been reported, which is 700k a week, whatever it was.
700K a
Right.
week, Sharm.
He says that wasn't true. It wasn't that much. He goes, he wish it was, but it's still obviously
Okay, let's say-
astronomical money.
Okay, let's say 4. Let's even say 3, 4, 5.
That's
I know.
insane. He's not.
It's astronomical
Albert's-
money.
Yeah,
no,
of
but
course.
Albert's
That's-
right.
It
He's
all
not-
goes back to the money. It has
he's
nothing
not
to do with
gonna
Saudi
get that from
Arabia.
any
It's
other
just
But let me
club.
ask you this,
the money.
when he and other players say, listen, it's not about the money for me, and we write that off. It's like, of course it is, right? And fair enough. But some of these guys, they've been rich for a long time, right? I don't think Jordan Henderson's lifestyle will change whether he's making $350 a year or 1.5 a year a week, right? I believe that he's a pretty modest kind of guy. So you get to a certain point where you make a certain amount of money where it really isn't that important because it's just normal to you having money, right? So I kind of get that angle, but let's be honest. I mean, ideally he would have stayed at Liverpool. He said that, but I wish one of these players just came out and said, listen, I couldn't turn down this kind of money for my family and for the future generations of my family. Just one guy.
Maybe it'll be
please.
Mohammed Salah at the end of the week.
Possibly. I'll always go back to it, though. It
We'll
was
get to that later, okay?
when Oscar went to China.
Yeah.
It's exactly what he said.
Yeah. That's
He
what
goes,
did.
I could stay and play, but this is for my family.
Yeah.
And for the people that could come after me. And you're like, okay,
Yeah,
I get it, dude.
I get it too.
You're not going to China to build a league. Let's be real. You're not going to Saudi Arabia
everyone's
to
got a
build a league.
price on their head,
Everybody's got a price, dude.
right?
Ted DiBiase. Everybody's got a price.
The $1 million man.
$1 million man.
That's
yeah.
my wrestling knowledge base. That's it. No
That's
more.
the only guy you
No
know.
more than that.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, but Jordan Henderson, come on. Well, stop lying, bro. We know.
All right, Sarah. Anthony has
Oh,
caused
la la.
the
Oh,
rise
God.
of a lot of
Your favorite player.
United getting a lot of
Yeah.
exposure today on headlines.
Really bad for United, actually. Everything, obviously, that just happened with Mason Greenwood, which was only last week that he went to Getafe. They're still paying 50% of his salary. Anthony now has domestic abuse charges, allegedly, against him. Brazil have dropped him from the national team, and now the pressure is on for Manchester United, allegedly. Again, I'm saying allegedly because we don't know, obviously, but the turmoil at United seems to kind of just continue. Really bad look for the Red Devils right now. Whether it's true or not, it's just the attention that you do not want, and Brazil immediately said, we don't want anything to do with this.
Well, let's be honest. It'd be easy for Brazil to drop him. He's horrible.
100%.
The guy can't score. He can't do much of anything. And if he, gets... I'm not even going to say it. Never mind. I was going to go dark there, and I caught myself.
Well, listen, I mean,
Hopefully none of this is true.
it's yeah, of course. It's very delicate, though, isn't it? After Mason Greenwood gets kicked out of the club,
kidding.
and he wasn't found guilty,
Yeah.
but obviously there's so much more to that story. The courts found basically that they wouldn't find him guilty because of what happened with the evidence and the witnesses who pulled out at the last minute.
Yeah, that's
but it's
huge.
delicate now. Surely they must hold him to the same standard.
They have to. I think that, well, what did they do with Greenwood? They basically suspended him, right? So he was gone for 14 months or something from the club. Anthony played against Arsenal on Sunday, but this was released before all of that. It was only now that Brazil have released him from the team that now it seems like the pressure's on for United. Bigger story here, and why I brought this up, is I just think, especially everything obviously going on with Rubiales in Spain. Last year we saw several players as well, Dani Alves, Benjamin Mendy. There were so many things. This is not a good look for football, and it is a constant thing that every year we see players, go through these kind of scandals, but really serious accusations. The clubs need to do stuff about this, because it cannot be acceptable in the sport, and I kind of think it is right now.
What is the reason for this? Is there a reason behind it? Is it these young kids getting given the world at such a young age and having no accountability, thinking that they are above everything because they're told they're above everything? Is that what it is? It translates down?
It's such a shift in a lifestyle. Like, we remember we talked about it when Anthony first moved to Manchester United. There's a huge piece that came out in Players Tribune, where he's talking about living in hell in Brazil.
Oh, and wasn't he like skipping over? Yeah.
Right. So, and now he's £100 million signing for Manchester United. He's playing in Manchester, one of the biggest clubs in the world, getting paid an absolute fortune.
Yep.
Like, he was at Ajax before that, but I mean, that's an extreme lifestyle change.
But I don't want to give that's
not an excuse. But I mean, at that age, being that young, getting that amount of money, that much attention, you must lose your mind at some point. Right?
Yeah,
it'd probably be easy to do that.
But I think that's affecting like your morals, right? Like whether you're coming from absolutely nothing, poverty, the favelas in Brazil,
it shouldn't
and now
matter.
you're here.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you get to abuse somebody. You know what I mean?
No, and that's not what I'm saying.
No, but
I'm just
merely
saying
say
it's such a shift in life.
Yeah, like everything going on with, let's say, like betting or just like spending all your money, going bankrupt. That to me, I'd be like, for sure, because you went from
that's easy. Sure.
That. But for you to be abusing someone in any form of the word, like that to me says way more about who you are inside.
And again, it's allegedly, but there is a pattern here in top flight football now. And not just top flight football, top flight sport.
Yeah.
In general, right? There is this almost a god complex, I think, with a lot of players who think they're above the law and can do whatever the hell they want.
But people also make them feel like that, right?
Yeah.
The way
they're built up
about players, right?
And they get crashed
well,
down.
since they were kids too, there been someone's telling them that they're the greatest ever.
Yeah.
Of course, right? So,
no, it's a tricky situation for sure. VAR, Birdie, you're all about the VAR this weekend.
Yeah, I love my VAR. You know that. So on Wednesday, there's a show that's dropping called Match Officials Mic'd Up, and it's Howard Webb and I think Michael Owen is involved, and they're going to be playing the audio from some of the VAR decisions over the past couple of weekends in the Premier League. And I'm just really curious to hear what they had to say about that Nathan Ake situation against Villa, where Akanji was clearly offside, impeding the goaltender. And then they're going to go back to the Alexis McAllister situation and any other, I guess, VAR decisions. I'm sure they're going to pick and choose.
Think they'd be really controversial?
I don't know, like how open.
There's some bad blown
ones.
calls this past couple.
They're taking a lot of heat recently too, especially with the Mike Dean stuff.
Yeah.
He was talking about how he's protecting his mate. He's like, if I said colleague instead of mate, it wouldn't have mattered as much. I'm like, well, you're still protecting somebody.
Yeah.
So who knows? Who knows how far behind the curtain they'll go?
They did it about 2 months ago, right? Last season they did it.
Yeah.
Or during the summer, sorry. It's a great show. It's really interesting to get that perspective and just how VAR works and doesn't work. And it's obviously they're improving on it all the time, or so we hear. But then this kind of stuff happens. I think the Premier League's got it wrong in many, many ways, actually.
Yeah, I think so too.
But that'll be a great show. Must-watch TV.
It drops Wednesday. It's got to be shown first on Sky Sports, and then it's available wherever I guess Premier League Productions put out their feed.
Right. Okay. I'm going to move on to Mr. Mohammed Salah.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah. You know it's coming at some
Big
point.
Mo?
Right? Yeah. Big Mo. Mo to go. This is from the Mirror, and it's all over. You know about this, but Klopp has already been told Liverpool must accept new Salah bid as Saudi Arabia. Al Ittihad weigh up £215 million offer before their transfer window closes on Thursday. Man, you got to think that they've spoken to the player, right? If you're preparing bids of this kind of money for a player, you got to think they've done through back channels, have spoken to Mo Salah and thinking, would you be interested? They want to make this guy the figurehead, the poster boy of Saudi Arabian football, because he's Muslim. He's of Arab descent, right? In an Arab country. I think it's going to happen.
I think so too.
That's my gut tells me.
Well, I mean, £250 million. Liverpool would be a little bit crazy not to accept it. But there was a storyline I remember reading a few weeks back when this story broke, saying that Mohammed Salah actually wanted to go live in a Muslim country because of his lifestyle, basically. And I was thinking, like, oh, I really hope that's not the reason, because surely, like, living in, England, like, I mean, they have so many different cultures. But he did get slammed on social media, remember, a couple years back? Because I think he had a post, like, celebrating Ramadan, and then he had a post celebrating Christmas. And people go, what are you doing? And I was like, all right, you can
do both. Come on.
Like, it was just, yeah. But I don't know. I really hope that's not the reason. The money makes a lot of sense to me. And also, we spoke about his age. Like, we spoke about this last week, and that, maybe by next year his time will be up with Liverpool. But it's a lot of money, James.
This team's played great this season, right? Against Villa, brilliant. He scored a goal, of course. And people think they can close the gap once again to City this season. Do you think that without Mo Salah this season, and they can't address it until January to bring in a reinforcement, do you think they can do that without Mo Salah this season? Forget the money right now, from a footballing standpoint.
No, I don't think they can. They'd have to replace 30 goals, which is next to impossible. It's really hard to do. I mean, you see Spurs trying to do it with Kane, and it's by committee, and obviously it's early on. And Liverpool, I mean, they have the personnel you would think, to score those goals and to fill that gap, but within the season, and then in January, who are you gonna buy in January? Let's be real. You're not getting a top striker in January.
Well, I mean, it wasn't many years ago they got Virgil van Dijk in January.
Very
from
true.
The Coutinho sale, right? We're now transformative, but you're right, it doesn't happen often.
And it was an easier transition for Virgil van Dijk because he was already in the Premier League playing with Southampton.
Did Luis Diaz arrive in January?
He was fantastic.
Really good.
He was fantastic. I don't know. He's still as good as Liverpool are. The midfield has gotten so much better. We talked about Szoboszlai off the air. How good is he? Darwin Núñez looks better. But to replace, the focal point of your attack, 4 or 5 games into the season, and try and close the gap on the City team who look like they're not slowing down, well, without Mohammed Salah, it's not going to happen.
But maybe you think deep down in the bowels of Anfield, those conversations, they're thinking, we can't catch City anyway. Look at them right now. Look how deep they are. They're going to win it again. We can cash in on a guy that's going to turn 32 in a little while, who's based on pace for £200 million plus. We can rebuild our entire defense and midfield again if we want to. And with that kind of money.
It already is a transitional season. You're in the Europa League, which makes it so much more difficult, which no one is talking about. The travel is obviously
Sunday is tough.
It's not great, right? So, I mean, you look at it as a transitional season. Can Liverpool make a run in the Europa League and potentially win that? For sure. I think they'd be one of the favorites. Can they win a domestic cup? For sure. And finish top 4? For sure. So it'd still be a successful season. Without Mohammed Salah, I mean, there's no way they're
they're a worse team without
Mohammed
Salah, bottom line, this season.
But they can still have a really good season without him.
Yeah, with that money. And then to rebuild for next season, getting a Champions League spot, if that's what they have to do, and then get this money and go after a top-tier striker in the summer transfer window. Liverpool is also not a kind of team that spend money kind of irresponsibly, They're not the Uniteds, the Cities, the PSGs, the Barcelonas, Real Madrid.
When's the last bust? They've made great signings.
But that's exactly the thing. So how I think
there's a certain role there, I think.
Yeah,
financially, I don't think they can say no to this, because they're such a smart club when it comes to their economics that they're going to say exactly what you said and think, what can we do with this money? One player that may be on their way out anyways in the next year or so. Look at that receipt. What can we do?
Yeah, it's still painful. It upsets me
sure.
as a fan, because as a football fan, forget being a Liverpool fan, a football fan, you know the right answer here, and that is to keep Mo Salah. But you can't remove the financial aspect of this, which is just so overpowering. That money is a world record fee for a 32-year-old. It's crazy.
He's got maybe 3 years left.
Maybe.
Peak.
Yeah. I hate this sport. Sometimes.
I know.
Breaks my heart.
I hear you, man.
Why do we even talk about it?
You love it.
But we will. Same time, same place tomorrow. By the way, if you like the Premier League, it's international break right now, by the way. No Prem for a while, but still, subscribe for free at 442picks.ca. Lots of money on offer, like a lot of money, like $250,000, potentially, if you're really smart, plus weekly and monthly prizes. Room 442 is brought to you by North Star Bets. That's a win.